Yeah.
That's scary. Ooh, I am scared about that. Ooh, thank you, Jesus.
Okay, I'm going to get ready to start. So if everyone would put their microphone on mute, unmute it if you want to stop me. If you have a question, just put your microphone on and say, I have a question, and we will go to it. Okay, so we are looking at Module 5, Week 2. This is the tough module, as I warned you last week. There's more due in this module than any other module in the class, which is probably why they made it 2 weeks long. So we're going to look at the draft presentation that's due in discussion 5.2, and we're going to look at the final paper. And again, just unmute your mic to answer questions, and of course I'll take them at the end. So for discussion 5.2, if you remember for discussion 2.2, you had to scroll down past 6.1. 2.2 was your project proposal. So you're scrolling down past 2.2 to find 5.2. In 5.2, you are sharing your draft presentation. I listed the groups last week. It was on 4/13 in announcements. There were groups, and you can also go into the tab that says communicate, and you will see where it says groups. And I gave you a group number, but it's very easy to find yourself on the list. And I made groups of 2 to make it easier for you to meet up. So you are either going to post your draft presentation in 5.2, or you're just going to meet with your partner, share with your partner your draft presentation. And then you're going to review the presentations. What I sent to you also on 4/13 in announcements was a checklist and a rubric for the presentation. What you are actually going to post in 5.2 is you're going to say what improvements you are going to make to your presentation based on your discussion with your partner, and what improvements you recommended to your partner for the presentation. So the presentation does not have to be posted in 5.2. However, you can post it there and then share with your partner, or you can find another way to share. Doesn't matter to me how you share. The important thing is that you do share, that you use the checklist. And then you're going to post the improvements you will make and improvements you recommend. By Sunday, you have to have 3 replies. Review the presentation slides, also posted in 4/13. Use the checklist. Make sure you include all the required slides, that you address all the content requirements, and remember, it is not the same requirements as the paper. So do not submit the entire paper as your presentation. Have a good balance of words and pictures. All words, people can't or get a little bit bored. All pictures, it's harder to follow along on what the key points are. And then follow the slide guidelines. This is important. You do not need the voiceover for the draft. All you need are your slides. You don't need the voiceover. I already said this, the entire paper is not in the presentation. And when I get to week 6, I'm going to give you a little bit more information on that. Follow the outline that was reposted in announcements on Monday. And there was a live session video last week that reviewed presentations, and that was posted in email on 4/16. Any questions on the draft presentation for 5.2 before I move on to the project paper?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Guy, let me see if I can get this right. His name is Guy Suzuki, I think.
Kawasaki?
Yes, that's it. Thank you. He has a thing where he talks about the 30-10-20 rule, I think it is, where it's no font larger than 30 point, no more than 10 slides, and no more than 20 minutes. Do you agree with that?
Basically, yes. Couple of caveats though. If you see here on final project paper, I'm going to highlight that. You can see I used a 40-point font on the heading. I hope you can see that on my screen. I think for headings, you can use more than a 30-point font. There are times that you should not do more than 10 slides. For this presentation, you actually do need about 10 slides because there are 5 required slides and 5 content slides. So that is a good benchmark for what you're doing. And 20 minutes, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people talk for too long. I would say that, you know, for this presentation, I'm asking you to do between 5 and 10 minutes. But if you were doing another kind of presentation, I think Guy Kawasaki's guidelines are pretty accurate.
Professor?
Yes.
The only thing on your screen is your picture. So if you have a slideshow up, we can't see anything.
Oh my God, why didn't you say something earlier? All right, so let me.
Hey, Doc, did you ever hear about the guy? You told us to click on that one link, you know? There was a guy from, I think, Australia. He gave some good tips too about the 6 rule.
Yeah, and I also included the rule of 6.
Yeah. But he said to use a dark background with white. So
the only time a dark background with white works well is if you are doing a presentation in a room that is dark.
okay.
That's when that's appropriate.
Okay.
However, if you're doing a presentation that is in a room that is not fully dark, you don't want to use dark. It's harder to see.
Okay.
If we were still on campus, you would have a choice of doing your presentation in a video or doing it in the classroom. And if you were doing it in the classroom, the room would not be dark.
Okay.
When I'm going to be looking at your slides to grade them, the room's not going to be dark.
Right. Gotcha. Makes sense. 100%.
Oops. All right, so let me just go back here. I'm so sorry that you weren't seeing the screen. All right, so I'm going to go back just to show you what was there that you didn't see. I'm sorry. All right, so this is what we're going to look at. Here's the 5.2 information that I mentioned. Here's the information on the presentation. More information on the presentation. And then this is the slide I was on when you told me you couldn't see. You should always mention that right away. Okay, so were there any other questions on presentations? Okay, so I gave you 2 different sample papers. They didn't use the exact same formatting. Both are really well done. If I remember correctly, one of them got 100 and one got a 99. So they're really good papers. And the students gave me permission to use their papers. So those were posted in announcements a week ago, Monday on the 13th. Make sure you go back and look at all your previously graded and returned papers to avoid any repeat errors, repeat issues. You want to make sure that you're not doing the same thing that you've done before that's lost you points. Use headings and page numbers. You will see that is in the sample papers. You're going to start with a table of contents in your papers. You can't have a table of contents in reality without page numbers. So put the page numbers on. Follow the outline. Last semester, several people created their own outline, and that meant they left several things out that were part of the grade. This is not a report on the company that you have picked. This is specifically things that you are supposed to be doing in this report. So follow the outline I gave you. It will get you a lot further to getting more points.
Doc?
Yes.
And see, when you in the beginning, like on that one sample paper, the student did SPC, and they gave a little bit of background information on SPC. See,
That student's project was on SPC.
right, and mine's on Amazon, but I'm relating it to the COVID virus.
Okay.
Would I tie in COVID with Amazon?
I think that your focus should be on Amazon, and you could give some background information on how COVID has impacted Amazon.
That's what I did. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So remember, this is a research paper. Research is not going to the company website. It's okay to use the company website, but it shouldn't be your only source of information. Try to use business journal articles. There are for so many of you, the companies that you've selected, there are lots of business journals out there. You can go to the SPC library. You can even go to a journal website. For instance, if you go to Forbes.com, you might be able to find something on your company, or Fortune.com. So there's much better things than Googling your topic, because if you Google, the things you come up with are purchase paper sites, which you can't use. What I call cheat sites. They are not really good sources for articles.
Blogs.
Blogs are major things that come up first. What comes up first in Google is not necessarily what's most relevant to you, but what is most often clicked on. So it's not really a good measure of whether or not it's a good source. So make sure you use good sources. Be careful of Google and any other search engine, because it gets you into places you do not want to be into. Your personal knowledge of the company can be used. You can use interviews, but again, you still need that research. Your personal experiences, the company website are sources, but they're not enough. You do need to do some research. So let me go to the outline for the final paper. The first thing is a title page. Next is your table of contents, and you list the page numbers on there. Your executive summary, and I'm going to talk more about that in a second, is done last but comes first. The executive summary is for the executive who doesn't necessarily read. So you're summarizing the key points made in the paper. You're putting it up front as an executive summary, which is different from a summary that you're used to putting at the end of a paper. Then you're going to have your background information on the company, and that should be no more than a page. The opportunity, benefits, risks, recommendations, references, and appendices. All of your graphs, charts, illustrations, pictures, anything that is not written is going in the appendix. So now I'm going to go over each one in a little bit more detail. I figure I don't have to go over the title page or the table of contents. Executive summary. As I said, you write it last, although it comes first. Here, you are establishing the need, the problem, or the business issue that you are going to be addressing in this report. You have to convince the executives that it's a problem worth solving. You're going to give them an overview of the recommendations, but not the total recommendation. It's going to be short. Keep it clear and concise. Write in good, strong business language. And this is one of the areas, if you go back and look at your papers, if you go back and look at my comments on papers, you'll find out what is not clear and concise. Things like the use of the word very. The use of superlatives, always, never, all, every, perfectly. And you also don't want to say things in 10 words that you can say in 3 words. You get rid of phrases like as well as, due to the fact that, in order to. Clear and concise, you get to the point. Continuing with executive summary. You don't include any tables, figures, or illustrations. You could say that they are in the appendix, but you do not include them at all. Consider it the only thing that the executive will read. If they can't read this and get the key points, you haven't done a good executive summary. If they understand what the problem is and what you're recommending, that's a good executive summary. You're keeping it to 1 to 2 pages. And this is double spaced, so that's not a lot of writing. You do not include any background information in an executive summary because you assume that the executive knows it. They know when the company was founded. They know who's the CEO because it's probably addressed to them anyway. So you don't need any of that information in your executive summary. Moving to the background information. Background is no more than 1 page. It's general information about the company or general information about the topic you're studying. And you can use the company website as a source. It's a good source for company background. The opportunity is the current situation. The internal issues, needs, and problems. Mention that this is one of the things that you are saying in the executive summary, but it's your current situation. And then any external influences. Chester mentioned he's doing Amazon and COVID. The internal issues right now might be at Amazon that they are struggling to get packages out to customers in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
The external influence is COVID.
Yeah.
It's, they've had to shut down distribution centers. That's an external influence. Almost everyone's company could have an external influence right now from COVID. There's so few companies that are not impacted by this. Sending people home to work, laying people off, losing their business. There's so much impact right now for all businesses, big and small. I honestly don't know anyone who is not impacted in some way from this. So that could be the external influence that they're dealing with. Last semester, someone did a report on the shortage of nurses. Well, the external influence right now with a shortage of nurses would be amazing if you think about it. So you want to think about what things are happening outside the organization in the current situation. Key success factors are critical. I can't believe how many people leave this out. And every semester I say, don't leave out critical key success factors. And every semester, I'm going to tell you 1/3 of the class does. Do not leave out key success factors. Hold on a second, Chester. Key success factors are your measures of success. If you're not working in the company that you're studying, you're not going to know measures of success. So you use directional words. Reduce errors, improve customer satisfaction, decrease the number of unpaid bills, increase, I already said increase profitability. So those are directional things. You need to have those measures of success. Go ahead, Chester.
Okay, Doc. In my key success factors, I did things such as, I don't know if I did it right, but my success factors, I use sources with them.
That's all right. As long as you have the directional words in there and use sources is fine.
Like initiative, health, protection, and awareness.
I don't hear any direction in there.
Okay. So
what was the first one?
Initiative, like managers and workers must take steps to stay proactive to keep each other healthy.
Improve the health of the employees.
Oh, okay. So I did the bullets. So okay, I got you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to make sure there's directional words in there.
Directional words.
And I have some examples on there. Reduce, improve, increase, decrease, enhance. eliminate. Okay, so benefits and risks. Benefits are not the same as key success factors. Benefits are what is the benefit to the organization for implementing change? Why should they do this? What would they see as a benefit? The risks, every organization, every time you do anything, there's a risk. So don't tell me there are no risks. There is always some risk involved in any kind of initiative that you take. Your recommendations, you need at least 2. A good recommendation is not keep doing what you're doing. Status quo is not really a recommendation. So suggest actions that when I see your problem or your solution or your problem, your issue, or your need, I'm not going to say, oh, this is going to be the recommendation. I want you to have something that is creative, innovative, outside the box, not expected. I'm not expecting you to have something that no one would have ever thought of, but it may be something that another organization is doing in a different industry that you think is a good idea that could work in this company. So I just finished grading some presentations that were done by another class, and the recommendations were so blah that I think a 5th grader could have, a 5th grader probably could have thought of some of them. There was nothing interesting, nothing innovative, nothing creative. It was all just, sort of the rote things people say organizations should do better. I'm looking for you to go beyond that. Your references, as I said, don't rely on the company website. Use business journals. Avoid blogs and site selling services. If they're selling services, they are not a reference. They're trying to get you to buy their way of doing something. So don't use a site selling services. If you see something on the top navigation bar that says our products or services or our catalog, that's an indicator that it is a site selling services. List your references alphabetically by the last name of the author. Wall Street Journal is not Journal WSJ. You don't put last names on things that are not people. And use APA format. Your appendices can include things like charts, graphs, illustrations, transcripts of interviews of supporting materials. You don't need an appendix, but if you have these things, then you need an appendix. Every paper does not have an appendix. In fact, I'm not even sure the 2 sample papers had an appendix. So it's not required, but if you have charts or graphs or illustrations, they're not in the body of the paper and they're not in the executive summary. They're only in the appendices. And you say somewhere, see Appendix A, see Appendix B. Reminders. Use an outline. Use the outline provided as headings, but you're not using an outline format. You're not using 1 and then information and then A, B, and then 1, 2. You're using the outline format for a paper, not a regular outline. I know that probably doesn't make sense. I sent you an outline that has all the headings, which is what I actually just went over. But you don't want to do it Roman numeral 1, executive summary, Roman numeral 2, background information. So you don't want to use the Roman numeral format. I already said don't create your own headings, double space your paper. Formal reports avoid first person, which is I, me, my. So my recommendation would be incorrect. The recommendation is would be correct. And remember, this is research. Okay, any questions on the paper or the report?
I have a basic question, Doc. See, what I'm having a hard time understanding is this. In chapter 9, it talks about like an RFT, like I had asked you before.
What is it talking about in 9, an RFP?
RFP or RFT. We're not doing an RFT, and we're not, and like you told me, it's formal,
Yes?
so we're not soliciting anything.
Okay. An RFP is a request for proposal. That is usually done with government agencies. Requests for proposals you would never want to do. I think the last one I did was 100 pages. A request for proposal, an organization says, we need somebody to help us do this. And then companies that do that write a request for proposal. That's not what you're doing. You are writing this formal report. That's not, and if you use the outline I gave you, you will be fine. Don't worry about everything in the textbook. That's just their background information.
Okay, that's why I'm thinking.
Any other questions on the paper? Go ahead, David.
For like the recommendation, do you know what the Lean 101 continuous process improvement training thing is?
Yeah,
I'm green belt trained.
good
so
for
would that
you.
be, well, the Air Force made me do it.
Oh, okay.
Would that be something that I would use for the recommendations?
Absolutely.
Training and,
You know, being a lean manufacturer, using Six Sigma are things that a lot of companies have never heard of, much less used. So that is a valid recommendation. And that's probably a great example of taking something you learned in one place and moving it to another place.
Out of the box.
Well, it's out of the box for the company you're talking about. It wasn't out of the box for the Air Force. It's not out of the box for Toyota, but it's out of the box for other companies. I don't remember which company you're doing, David. Which is it?
I'm doing Department of Education, particularly Department of Defense Education.
Okay. Six Sigma applies, and that's a good recommendation.
I'm in the marketing world and I got a green belt because they wanted me to. It depends
Green
on-
belt is a very good thing. I didn't stick around long enough to get my black belt, but I learned a lot.
The
Someday.
reality is anybody who has any Six Sigma training, by the way, your resume is due in week 6. Put that on your resume. That is something, and if you have any belt, doesn't matter what color, even the lowest level color, that makes you look good for organizations. So if you got it, flaunt it. I can only see Chester, Holly, and David, so if anyone else has a question, just start talking. Okay. Any other questions on the recommendations? Because that is often a challenging area for people.
Doc, now the recommendations, like you said, we can come up with them on our own, out of the box, or use one from communication from the book. Now,
I'm not sure the book is going to have the recommendations.
yeah, I know what you mean, but related to communications,
Yes.
business communications.
Okay, so go ahead.
So what I was wondering is, do we have to cite those two?
If you got your idea from someplace else, you cite it. Now,
Okay, no problem.
David, you could talk about, you know, since you have the belt, you probably don't need a source to talk about Six Sigma, but you certainly could use a source about the value of Six Sigma or where it's worked really well.
Okay, I know they
Okay.
have their own website that talks about everything that goes into the belts and their process. So that might be something I can cite.
Yeah, and that's probably a .org site.
I believe so. I haven't looked
Yeah.
at it in a very long time.
Yeah, .org sites are 100 times better than .com sites because they're not trying to do business, they're trying to provide information. .org and .gov are good websites to use. Any other questions?
No, I use the CDC a lot.
CDC is good. That's a .gov, I think, or org, I'm not sure. All right, so I just want to give you some heads up on Module 6. The requirements. You're doing a LinkedIn profile And this past week, I sent you a LinkedIn checklist and information on a profile. You're doing your final presentation, which requires voiceover that you don't need for 5.2, and a resume. So LinkedIn, I gave you a fact sheet on LinkedIn on 4/20. I'm going to review career information. I'm going to review next Wednesday, so that would be provided next week. You have to prepare or revise a LinkedIn profile. You're going to share it with the same partner, assuming the partnership worked for week 5. If it didn't, we'll review that. You're going to post improvements that you need to your profile and recommendations to your partner, along with the checklist. That was, I think I provided that this week, and if I didn't, I will do it next week. And you don't need any peer replies. Your presentation, you're going to implement the suggestions from 5.2. You're going to use the checklist in announcements, review your slide presentation, watch the video again that I posted last Thursday. Make sure you include your required slides and follow the slide guidelines. Here are the required slides again, and there's 5 of those and basically 5 content, so that's where you get to your 10 slides. The title slide, the intro or agenda, you do not need both. Content, summary where you do not repeat the agenda, question to see if the audience has any questions, and then your reference slide. Those are the required. These are the content slides. And there's 5 of them, so that's how you can easily get to 10 slides. Overview of the company, no more than 1 slide. And actually all of these could be 1 slide. Your need, your problem or business issue being addressed, that comes right out of your executive summary. The importance of addressing the need or the issue. The recommendations, that could be 1 slide, you only need 2 of them. And the desired results or the key success factors. How are you going to know if what you recommended is going to be successful? And that could be based on those key success factors. Your presentation tips. These have all been said before. Do not put the entire paper into the presentation. You are not writing in sentences and paragraphs. You're following that rule of 6, which is 6 lines per slide and 6 words per line. Bullets are what you're using. Use a Microsoft Office template or create a template, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that in a few minutes. And if it's a dark background, just change it to a light background. If the font is Times New Roman, which it often is, change it to a sans serif font. And use a light background and dark font for your content. Tips. Balance your words and pictures. Do not use all of one. It's ineffective. Use high quality graphics, not clip art. Try to avoid animations and transitions for a couple of reasons. One is that it increases your upload time, and the other is that I look at your slides in this mode, so I don't get to see it anyway, so it's a waste of energy to even put them in. Use at least 20-point font on content. If you have a choice between making the words bigger or the pictures bigger, you make the words bigger and try to have 1 idea per slide. When you're doing your presentation, do not read a script, do not read slides, and don't read notes. You're presenting. What you want to put on your slides are the things that are going to remind you about what you want to say. If you add the voiceover to each slide individually, make sure you synchronize your change with your speaking. Check your audio before sending it to me. Make sure I can hear you. Detailed speaker notes can be used as a last resort. Right down here is where you see speaker notes. This is where you would add them. And it's a last resort because one of the elements of the grade is your delivery. And if there's no voice, there's no delivery. To send me a video, you can use either the Microsoft VoiceOver, which is really not a video, it's just voice in your slides. You can use MP4 Screen-O-Matic, or you can record in Skype or Zoom, then upload it to YouTube. If you upload it to YouTube, make sure the link is public. If it's not public, I can't see it. Confirm that the upload time is no more than 5 minutes. There's nothing that drives me crazier than sitting and looking at a screen uploading for 40 minutes. And I can't do anything else. Check your email and Spark on May 5th, which is the day after your presentation is due. If there's an uploading or voice problem, you will get an email and a Spark if you're listed in Spark, and you have only until May 7th to resubmit. Any questions at all about presentations? Oh, that's your son's hand, not yours.
I don't know what the Spark thing is. What is it?
Oh, Spark is St. Petersburg College, some kind of message system. I don't know if you're automatically put into Spark or not. Who's asking the question?
Krista?
Okay, Krista. After we get off, I'm going to check and see if you're in Spark, and if you're not, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so now what I want to show you, oops. I want to show you examples of templates that were actually created by students. Can you see the screen? Okay. So these were examples of what students prepared for their presentations on a company. They created these templates. Here's Google. This is their text slide where they would add information, and here's the question slide. Here's a presentation for McDonald's. This is their slide for content, and here's their question slide. You can see that they are incorporating the corporate colors. Here's Starbucks.
As a graphic designer, the fact that they used Comic Sans really bothers me.
Oh, I think they probably used it because I use it a lot.
As a designer, we don't do it.
All right, so here's somebody who did one on Harley Davidson. Person's name that I did this because I knew what their name was. They call themselves the A-Team. And here's their question slide. And then we have Coca-Cola. You can see that the headings are in red. Their text is in a dark gray, which picks up on the dark gray in the logo. Here's one of the slides that used a great picture. There's their summary and their question slide. So I just wanted to show you that what happens when somebody creates their own slide. So, questions, concerns. You can all unmute now if you want.
Hey, Lou.
Hey, Chester.
What's up, brother?
Good. How are you?
Hanging in there.
Holly, any questions?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay, Krista?
No, not right now.
Lou?
No.
David?
No.
Chester?
No.
That's not a convincing no. But, okay, so I will be checking, I check in every day. If you have questions, please ask, send me a message, and you'll get an answer more than likely within 24 hours or less. So if you don't understand, ask. I know this is a lot. I know it's confusing. If we were on campus, the way that 5.2 would be done is actually in the classroom, but obviously we can't do that.
Yeah, we can't.
So we have to do it the way the online class usually does. So
Thank God you're so understanding about that.
what happens is that the online classes don't get to ask as many questions as the campus class does, because what happens as they're doing 5-2 in classes, I'm walking around helping everybody improve their presentation. Obviously, I can't do that. So please don't wait till the last minute. If anything comes up, ask the questions, okay? Are we all set for tonight?
Yep.
Does everybody know who their partner is?
Ollie.
Yeah.
Mama, your partner.
I hope Mama doesn't let you do her presentation.
Yeah.
Hey, might be more interesting, right?
All right.
Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, let's call it a night. And I will post the video tomorrow.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Jester, call me.
I will.
Okay.
Night
Good night.
night. You all set, Chester, or do you have more questions?
I just had a couple more, Doc. Now, see,
Hold on, I want to shut off the recording.
Okay, Doc, sorry.